Paige, and I'll be coordinating our service this morning. Group dialogue, our topic today is going to be the art of being present. And some of you who know me pretty well might wonder, why would I be talking about this? And there's two reasons really. It's our theme for the month. Presence is our theme for the month, but the other two reasons are being present is vitally important. And it's vitally important. And I've learned how important it is in the work I've done in my life and in my life, and generally I try to learn. And the second reason I would be talking about this is because I'm really, really bad at it. And it's been a struggle to maintain presence from moment to moment. Might have a little ADHD going on, but we all try. And so it's actually an art, but there are strategies you can use to be present. So as we get started today, next slide. The first thing we're going to do is reaffirm our covenant. I pulled up the broader covenant. And the covenant is the silk that joins Unitarian Universalist congregations, communities, and individuals together in a web of interconnection. The practice of promising to walk together is the precious core of our creedless faith. Our covenant, the broader UU covenant, is love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now I'd ask for a volunteer to light the chalice. All right, come on up, Nancy. As Nancy lights the chalice, let's just reflect on our topic for the month of December as presence. Most of us have spent our lives caught up in plans, expectations, ambitions for the future, or in regrets, guilt, and shame about the past. To come to the present is to stop the war. Thanks, Nancy. As we move into greeting one another, since we're a small bit of revitalization in the last year with redefining its values and the purpose, putting love at the center. So this is our new emblem. And what we try to do each Sunday, or at least once a month, is how are we connecting to these values? And as you think about the concept of being present, I'm just trying to silence that. When we think about the concept of being present, what values does that incorporate from our UU values? And in reviewing those, really struck me that being present speaks to pluralism. And pluralism and interdependence. So the two, the one at the top and the one at the very bottom. Want to go to the next slide? When we think about pluralism, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. So we're all different. Everybody's different, which really harkens to the need to be present. And interdependence, we honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. So when we think, next slide, when we think about the art of being present, I like to think about it on 3 planes. Where are we in the world? We are present in a very, very, thinking from the big picture, we are present in the world. And what does that look like to be present in the world? And how do you wake every morning and start to see yourself as a small but important presence in the world? The next level is how do you build and maintain presence in the moment? How are you present in your daily life? How are you present in this moment with this congregation? And then the third kind of bucket, or the tier of being present, is how am I present when I am one-on-one with another human being? What does that look like to be present one-on-one when you're working with a human being? So first, we're going to talk about the big picture, to be present in the world. What does that look like? I think it's something that is good to do in meditation at the beginning of each day, to ground yourself on who are we, what are we, why are we here? What does that look like? We're going to play a little short video meditation. It starts out kind of quirky, but it gets better. Tina's a pro up there.
Present. Be present. Present to what? Well, one answer to that is to be present to where I am. And then the answer to where I am is forever, ever expansive, always expanding. So this meditation is going to try to touch on just one little aspect about where I am. To meditate, one way to do it is to just stop. Put everything on pause. Be still and become present. Visualize yourself in bed, asleep. You awaken, it's morning. Become present to the beginning of a new day. See the dawn, the sun, bringing its light and energy and warmth. Be present to the air. Breathe the air. It's always there. See blue water, lakes, rivers, ocean. See land, fields, valley, mountain. See trees, colorful flowers. See many, many creatures living on the earth. See the whole earth. Become present and have a sense of gratitude for all life. This is home. Become present with the journey you've been on that has brought you to this very moment in time. You've come from stardust, and you are here now. For over 13 billion years, you've been traveling this journey of change, evolution. Be present to the mystery and the wonder of it all. present. Go deeper in thought, deeper and deeper inside. You are woven into the very fabric of this magnificent whole system. Sense the connection to what is true, beautiful, and good. And there, see your face. You are one. All is one. Be present. Remember where you are. Now that you are present, you are ready to live the day and ready to say, good morning.
Okay, now everyone's feeling that they're present in the moment and present in our day. The next level of being present really is you're present in the world, but how am I present in every moment that I'm a part of? Being present in the moment can be challenging. We've all had probably different work experiences, life experiences, where you're physically present, but your mind is wandering all over the place. How do you maintain and keep yourself in presence in a moment? How did you keep yourself present in the moment of just even doing that meditation? How many of you struggled with your mind wandering? What do I need to do this afternoon? What do I need to get at the grocery store? You know, my home trees are decorated, whatever your brain is going, and how do you bring yourself back into the reality of the presence of this moment? It is hard, and it's a practice. So maintaining presence in the moment, there's some strategies. I became much more aware of this when I started, left my job running hospitals, and I started teaching a little bit at the University of Minnesota. I just teach one class. I've lectured at the medical school, but this class I teach regularly now is leadership in healthcare administration. And it occurred to me that any element of being a leader or leading an organization requires presence. Physical presence, but also mental and emotional presence in the lives of many hundreds of people. You have to maintain that. And when you're teaching in a classroom, you can see when people are not present. You know, they're looking at their phones, they're flipping their computer up. And so I started a little practice when I used to just go and give incremental talks at the medical school. I said, I drive an hour each way to get here and take basically a half day out of my job to be here, to be present with you. And I expect you to be present with me. And so turn your phones off and put them away. Put your laptops away. There's nothing there. Oh, and someone would say, I'm taking notes on my laptop. No, you're not. I don't say that to them, but put your laptops away and being present. When I started teaching a leadership class in the healthcare administration program, I decided that being present is an incredibly strong cornerstone and element of being a really good leader. So again, something that I struggled with doing all the time. So now I have the students there's like 30 students in this class, graduate school, and I have them break into groups of 3 in every class, or 3 or 4 in every class. We start with a practice. They lead the group in bringing the group to presence to start our classes, which are 3 hours long on Tuesdays in the springtime. So it's a long class, it's a long duration. We take breaks, but we start out with basically, them doing something to bring to present and reinforcing the need for leaders to be present. So groups and struggling in groups, there's some strategies you can use. Next slide. If you're struggling to maintain presence, I was in a meeting the other day where I was just struggling to pay attention. Well, some things you can do: breathe, take a deep breath in, and refocus. You know when you're doing meditation and they say, oh, you're just focusing on the air coming into your nostrils and your mind is wandering, bring it back to the present. Same thing in groups. When you're struggling to pay attention, take a deep breath in, try to clear your brain of their grocery lists and the other things you're thinking about, and bring yourself back to the present. Focus in on one thing. What's going on? What is this person talking about? And how do I focus on that one thing, that element? Repeat it to yourself in your brain. And the other thing is take movement breaks. Sometimes you're sitting in a meeting or a gathering, and if you get up and stand and take a stretch and do a deep breath in, you bring yourself back to presence in that group. Okay, to the next slide. On that third plane, and sometimes the most challenging, is being present with one another. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where someone's talking and you're really not paying any attention to what they're saying? I have struggled actually with this in my marriage. So those of you who know my husband, it's interesting because he's an introvert and I'm an extrovert's extrovert. And yet when we are alone together, he talks incessantly. And so if we're watching something on TV, so I've been practicing the art of presence with him. If we're watching something, he talks over it constantly. Even movies, talks over it constantly. Fortunately, with flippers nowadays, you can pause. So what I do now is if we're watching a program on TV, if he starts talking, I silence it and I turn to him and look him in the eyes and listen, try to listen. And those of you who know my husband know also that he's a walking encyclopedia of information. He's a very knowledgeable guy, very well read, and he loves to share all that knowledge that you may or may not have a deep interest in hearing. And so, that art of being present, I feel kind of fortunate that I have a built-in opportunity to learn and grow how to improve my ability to be present. Another glaring example of this that I've seen is our daughter lives in Manhattan, very near to Central Park, and so she walks and jogs in Central Park a lot. There are a lot of children in Manhattan who are regularly under the care of nannies. And Gretchen, our daughter, has observed this, and she's come to the determination that she would never hire a nanny to take care of her child because she said, Mom, watch this. We'll be walking down the street, and you have people, no, not universally, of course, but it's very obvious the nannies who are not present with the child, not attending to the child, who are completely distracted. We see this with parents too, especially with cell phones and media, and not being totally present when you are physically present. And how do you practice that? I'm sure it's a challenge, a deep challenge for young parents in our society today, to always be available to that cell phone, and how do you balance that availability with being present? I know I've had jobs for 25 years where I'm available 24/7, 365. I'm always available. In my family, my cell phone is the one that's always on. Alison always answers her cell phone. That's not true of all my siblings. One of my siblings, I think she took a class or something on finding peace in your life. She never answers her cell phone. Never. Never. And so then I'm thinking, well, what if, who is answering their phone when someone's calling that our mother has taken a fall or had a heart attack or a stroke? Who is answering their phone? And so they know I do. And so, but then I think, you know what? I'm not in a job anymore where I need to be available 24/7, 365. I can silence my cell phone and not attend to it all the time. So I'm really, really working on that. Present with other people. So, and I should say too, I know a lot of you have lots of experiences, so if anybody feels like sharing anything as we go here, please chime right in. Next slide. We're going to talk about 7 more specific strategies. Can you see that okay? Yeah, okay, just briefly. 7 strategies to being more present, and they really work. They really work. Number 1, the obvious one, remove the distractions. Just take them out of your life. If there are things that are distracting you, right now I'm working on removing the distraction of stuff in my house because it's in the way of me focusing on the things that I want to focus on for the rest of my life. And so how do I just remove this and clear my world of the stuff that is in my way? So removing distractions, silencing your cell phone, those kinds of things. Practice active listening. You've heard of active listening before, but what is active listening? So when I practice that with David, my husband, is what is he actually saying, and am I actually hearing it, repeating it in my head, and then really taking it in and maybe asking him clarifying questions or repeating it back to him. This is what I'm hearing you say. That those are ways you can actively listen. Most of us, research shows, we're all guilty. Most of us are thinking ahead to what we're going to say next before we're not really listening. And it's a slower process, yeah, to truly listen to other people and then formulate what you're thinking. You also run the risk of assuming what people are saying, and you should never assume what other people are thinking or saying. Strategy number 3 is showing empathy and understanding. Being present involves more than just hearing the words spoken. It's about empathizing with the speaker and understanding their perspective. Nancy?
While you were talking earlier, I was reading through 1, 2, and 3. I had to, it was up there, and you were talking.
Other people do it now? Reading it and not moving ahead? Yeah,
no, and it's all good points, but there's so much there, so you feel like you have to
like
look ahead, because otherwise you're going to miss something.
You don't want to miss anything.
Right.
Especially the Christmas cookies I made for you.
Yes.
Don't want to miss those. They're really good. So good point, Nancy. So that should cause me to slow down. Patrice?
I was at a management conference once, getting ready to practice active listening.
Active listening.
And you just logged in exactly what they said in that conference. And if you're thinking, you're not listening.
Exactly. If you're thinking, you're not listening.
You're having an internal conversation.
Yep.
And you're not listening. So, and that is an exceptionally difficult thing to do, to stop thinking while someone else is
To stop thinking. And I'm glad you brought that up because we're not there yet, but we're going to talk about mindfulness. And I always thought, when do people talk about mindfulness? We're doing this meditation and they're telling me to breathe in through my nose and feel the air coming through my nose and focus on that feeling of how it, and I'm like, why is this beneficial to me? Why am I doing this? Well, it's about that mindfulness. Notice when you're doing mindfulness, you're noticing that your mind is wandering. Your mind is going over here. You notice that a bird is flying by outside, but you're bringing your thoughts back to the feeling of the air coming through your nostrils. In a conference, you're bringing yourself back to attending directly to what the person is saying, every word that they're saying, and how do I take it in and take it into my mind. I mean, how many of us, I just was over at the Sycamore visiting my mother the other day, and she was sitting with a gentleman who's new to the Sycamore, and his name was Jerry. And I have to, when he said his name, I have to go, Jerry, 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 Jerry. I have to say it over and over again to get it to go into my mind and really focus on it. But how many times do people introduce themselves, and 2 seconds later, you're like, oh my dear God, I can't remember this person's name, and then someone else walks up and you'd like to introduce them to that person, and it's totally escaped you already. It's because you're not really listening. And again, I'm not good at it, but I'm aware. So I'm aware I'm not good. But yeah, that's exactly it, Patrice. So showing empathy and understanding, empathizing with that speaker and where they're coming from. Good practice at this is knocking on doors in political seasons when you're really trying to listen to someone and understand where they're coming from. Like how, I hear you, and affirming that person. I hear what you're saying, and I think I'm understanding your perspective, how you're viewing this issue. Because there's lots of ways to, everybody lives in their own movie, and there's lots of ways to view different situations. Okay, next slide, Tina. Strategy number 4, slow down and breathe. Take a moment to slow down. Regulate your breathing during conversations. Slowing your breath helps calm your mind and allows you to be more present. Take deliberate deep breaths to ground yourself in the present moment and maintain a focused mindset. Simple technique. Next is mindfulness. We just talked about that. The mindfulness in a conversation of being aware that your mind is wandering. Pay attention to the fact that my mind is starting to wander. How do I bring myself back? How do I bring myself back into the moment? Asking open-ended questions. This is a great one too with children. To be present with children, teenagers, teenage girls. Had a 13-year-old granddaughter overnight the other night, and always asking these, trying to, and she's like, how's school? How's school going? Oh, she wanted to have a friend overnight with her at my house, and tell me about that friend. What do you have such nice friends? What do you like best about your friend? What's the best characteristic that you admire about that friend? Asking kids the next question that expands what they're thinking about, and with friends too. Asking open-ended questions when you're out with your immediate friends as well. And then cultivating curiosity. Approach conversations with a sense of curiosity and genuine interest in the other person. Instead of focusing on what you'll say next, be curious about their experiences, thoughts, and ideas. Curiosity helps us stay present, engaged in the moment, and create a more enriching conversation for both parties. Being genuinely interested and curious about why a person thinks like they do. I'm just lately becoming very curious as to why anyone would oppose the Equal Rights Amendment. And I'm trying to follow that path of curiosity to understand, why would someone oppose this? And try to understand it more deeply, because, of course, looking at it from the viewpoint I'm looking at it, it's a no-brainer. So understanding more deeply. Thoughts on these 4 strategies? Okay. Next slide. So going back to the art of being present and thinking about that presence on a grander issue, global, worldwide. We're present in the world. We're present in the moment, and we're present with individuals. And thinking about it in those 3 terms, I loved that meditation because it's like each morning, how do you bring yourself into presence in the world? And then go into each moment with the anticipation and the expectation that you will be present. In every interaction you have with individual people, just asking yourself, how am I practicing the art of presence in this moment?
And follow-up is really huge, especially in the life of another. And when you're looking at the world there, that reminds me, just this past week, my friend Susie, who moved to Garmisch, Germany with her husband 3.5 years ago, because after Trump became president, she couldn't sleep for 3 months. So they worked to remove themselves from the United States. They lived in Upper Michigan at the time. Anyway, I talked with her yesterday morning, and she said, Nancy, from where I am, I can see the curvature of the earth, because Garmisch is in a valley with mountains all around it. And she was watching the moon, and she said by watching the moon, and as it changed, she could feel the curvature of the earth from that point. And I love her. We've known each other since we were 4 years old. And giving her the space to share that with me. And so I offer, if you have space with your loved ones, give it to them, and they can give you these riches of what they experience by being present.
Yeah, and being present in the life of another. Were you going to say something new? No, okay. Scratch your head. Being present isn't just in the moment, face to face with another individual. It's being present in someone's life in so many ways. Do you stay connected? Do you communicate with them? There's a person who was ever present in my professional life who was just a wonderful, wonderful person, and I regretted that I was just feeling badly that I hadn't been more present in her life and stayed connected with her. And then I got a call last week from her son, and she just passed away. I was at her funeral on Monday. And so you live with these regrets of not being present enough. And so how do you approach that and really make an effort to be present in the lives of those that you Also, people are present in our lives even when they're not physically present any longer. You think of the presence. I know I cry really easily, but I just feel the presence of Jens Alison and some of the other people that have left us in this organization. Every time I walk through these doors, I think of Jay Esch the last time I saw him when he was working on high here. And you people are present even when they're not physically present. And how do we feel that presence? And how do we create that presence for others? So next we're going to listen to another. This next video is about what if we didn't name things? What if we just experienced things without naming them?
You know, if you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. And therefore, all you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time. That means, when I use the word think, you're talking to yourself. Subvocal conversation, the constant chit-chat of symbols and images and talk and words inside your skull. Now, if you do that all the time, you'll find that you've nothing to think about except thinking. And just as you have to stop talking to hear what others have to say, you have to stop thinking to find out what life is about. And the moment you stop thinking, you come into immediate contact with what Korzybski called, so delightfully, the unspeakable world. The most ordinary sights and sounds, smells, the texture of shadows on the floor in front of you. All these things, without being named, and saying, that's a shadow, that's red, that's brown, that's somebody's foot. When you don't name things any longer, you start seeing. Because, say, when a person says, I see a leaf, immediately one thinks of a spearhead-shaped thing outlined in black and filled in with flat green. No leaf looks like that. No leaves. Leaves are not green. That's why Lao Tzu said, the 5 colors make a man blind. The 5 tones make a man deaf. Because if you can only see 5 colors, you're blind. And if you can only hear 5 tones in music, you're deaf. You see, if you force sound into 5 tones, you force color into 5 colors, you're blind and deaf. The world of color is infinite, as the world of sound. And it is only through stopping, fixing conceptions on the world of color and sound, that you really begin to hear it and see it. So, let me say again, I'm not talking about the ordering of ordinary everyday life in a reasonable and methodical way as being school teacherish and saying, if you were nice people, that's what you would do. For heaven's sake, don't be nice people. But the thing is that unless you do have that basic framework of a certain kind of order and a certain kind of discipline, the force of liberation will blow the world to pieces. It's too strong a current for the wire.
Isn't that fascinating? I thought I'd like to play this again sometime, just have a whole conversation of the meaning of it, of what Alan Watts means, especially at the end when he talks about what would happen if we didn't put definition around things, if we're just experiencing and seeing things. Okay. Before we close, I want to just talk about our announcements. Coming up soon, we have the December 21st, Tie Down the Sun, and that's going to be led by Nancy. How does she pronounce her last name, Nancy?
No, it's Rachel.
Rachel. We got Nancy Miller and Rachel Kniffer mixed up here.
So I was gonna be in charge of
okay.
it, and it's my 64th birthday that day.
Oh,
and my Aunt Emmeline is being buried at 11:30 that morning in Milwaukee, and Rachel Knipfer has been in contact to say that she will organize it. And so it will be Saturday afternoon from like 3 to probably 7. And sunset that day is 4:32 in the afternoon. So before and after sunset, there will be a fire out here. And people people will have skeins of things to throw across with intentions to give, and then there'll be a potluck. Balls of yarn or, you know, twine, stuff that can burn and doesn't poison us. Anyway, Tie Down the Sun, December 21st, starts at 3 in the afternoon right here. I will be with you in spirit, because I'll be in Milwaukee in physical body. Thank you.
Okay, and good luck on your trip there. That'll be a nice closure.
Thank you.
And does Ann Leak have all that information to put in the?
Ann Leak has been following with information in the dragonfly, and bring your friends